We're gonna do roll call. Chris Norwood, I know he's here. Ellie?
Here.
Michael?
Here.
Kush?
Here.
And Timothy?
Here.
Great, thank you. So in closed session, the board accepted with a 4-0 vote the resignation of a certified manager, elementary principal. The effective date will be June 2020. The board also approved the settlement proposed in closed session, agenda item number 1 in closed session agenda. Is there a motion to review and approve the open session agenda?
Motion to approve the open session agenda, closed session agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Michael or Kelly? Michael, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any Coach and Timothy, the things that you can vote on, please vote. And I'll call on you later. Thank you. Scott, do we have someone to lead us in the flag salute? To the podium. Oh.
You mentioned?
Hi, I'm Sonia Borja from Sanford School. Please rise, remove your caps, and join me in the flag salute. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Comments from the public. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2A and .3 preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or the district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to address the item for a future meeting. If you would like to address the board on any item on the agenda or one that does not appear on the agenda, please complete the green request of visitors form. Is in the back room located at the entrance. Fill it out, hand it to the communication specialist at the beginning of the meeting. On the form, please list your name, organization, telephone number, email, home address, and the agenda that you would like to speak to. Or if it's not on the agenda, you'll be able to speak under the comments of the public portion of the agenda. And for items on the agenda, you'll be able to speak at the time of that item. When your name is called, come to the podium, state your name and your number for the record. Sorry, got the term. Got it. And please, limit your remarks to 2 minutes. And I'm not trying to be rude to anybody, but please, 2 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes for a group. I will cut you off if you go over the 2 minutes. I will let you finish the statement, but not the whole presentation. The district asks for the contact information from those wishing to speak, so staff can follow up on issues brought to our attention. So thank you for the participation in the civic engagement. We can start with Mr. Kansan Chu.
Hanson shoes?
Kan Chu. Sorry.
Mic check.
I
One,
did
two.
not.
Oh, it's okay. We go way back. It's all right. You know. I want to talk to
Sorry.
children. You know. It's all right.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay, already started. All right.
Yes.
All right. Good evening. I want people in this room and the community to maybe re-examine their hearts. There's a lot of stress as of these past 2 days. It's all linked to the special somebody I will not name. Hundreds of us are angry and frustrated with unnamed person digging up personal information about us, for which seems to be tied to some election happening, I heard in March maybe. And you have about 500 angry teachers because we feel used and victimized over his interactions. So you may have done things legally, we're mad. We've been used, we feel harassed, and whoever you are doing this up for, we will not be happy for that person. And it's really cowardly that you won't tell us who that person is under their oath. Hey, students first, right? Unnamed person using the general fund for legal fees is not students first. Hey, I know I'm in a thankless job. I get it. When real estate agents use good test scores as a selling point for schools, we don't get a commission out of that, not 1 penny. And another lady that's not off the hook, if you're in the house, you're not off the hook either. Taking up information on the 500 of us teachers, shame on you. And all the spare time some people have on apps like Nextdoor, let's re-examine our hearts. If you're neglecting your spouse over local gossip, maybe turn on that Spotify and dance with your spouse. 2, re-examine our hearts. Maybe play a board game with your kids as a way to re-examine your heart. Maybe go take a yoga class. 2, re-examine our hearts. Because I know I have some heartbeats because of unnamed person who might be here. He has increased my heart rate, increased my blood pressure because I feel harassed. And I do feel betrayed by people like him and people who support him, especially in this room. There may be one sitting in front of me, but probably there's one sitting behind me. I will live a little less because of these few days. I'm sure my family at home aren't thrilled with that truth. And I'm sad and I'm hanging on a thread. And I too will re-examine my heart.
Thank you. You have Evan Game.
Good evening, happy New Year to you all. I'm a resident of Milpitas and also friends, many of you, a couple of you on board, and many of you on the elections, both sides with the new member. I just express a observation that in the recent weeks I see combative movements that doesn't actually represent the school spirit. I know it's a heated competition, but it all derives from this one problem, which is a wrongful counted vote. Also the new censure policy, which is against Michael, you're one of your board member. Now this kind of a war going on is not friendly for either side. I feel the last speaker's motion that we need to re-examine the hearts if we want this campaign to be positive and encouraging and set an example for the kids. We need to play nice on both sides. I saw somebody pull off Lane's board, her campaign board, and ban the stance myself on the intersection. This is not the right way we should run the campaign. And I just want to encourage you guys to do the right thing and check your hearts to see what it is that this school district is about and do it fairly. Thank you.
Thank you. Yogi Garcia.
Hi, my name is Yoli Garcia. I'm resident of Milpitas. And my reason for being up here is I know that we have restrictions on budgets, but I would like the board to consider in their budget this year for at least one other social worker to help with the homeless kids situation and with our kids in Milpitas. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't have any more. Okay, good. We are moving on to Norma Rodriguez. Would you help me go over item 14, the Lupita specialty groups? With pleasure, President.
Build a culture of we that engages parents, staff, and community partners in supporting student success. Improve communication systems for outreach to parents, students, and staff. Develop educational pathways that allow students to apply their passion in learning for their future careers. Focus services and support systems to ensure that all students are engaged in their learning and are making social, emotional, and academic gains. Identify creative, student-focused strategies to accommodate enrollment growth and ensure healthy learning environments.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item 15, superintendent's report.
Happy Lunar New Year, everybody. We have our recognitions tonight, so if I could have board and cabinet join me up here. Some of you may know these young ladies from Milpitas High School who are tennis players, and they recently won the Silicon Valley Elementary Camino League Doubles Championship. So if I could have Catherine Kerr and Shania Fogg, please come up. And are your families here? If you could come up with us too, that would be great.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Perfect. Oh, this is, you should be in the center. Over here. Can we together?
Where are we?
Guys, look, shift this way a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we have two new additions to our California distinguished schools. I'd like to invite the Rose community staff up.
We need you guys in the middle.
All right, we need Tristan's got to be in the middle. Oh, yeah, scoot over. Come here. Sydney, scoot over. There you go, scoot over. There we go. There we go. There you go. What about this thing? Oh. Oh, and I need to do a picture on my phone too.
Let's everybody slide this way more. Slide down. I'm sorry. Be careful right here. The product of videoing.
Bravo, you're my pictures.
Are you gonna move? Okay, there we go. Cheese. Cheeseburger. Tigers. All right,
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
So, I want to really thank, the Rose community and our Rose staff, who's just been amazing. This is my 10th year at Rose, and a good number of the staff have been here the whole time I've been here and even longer. And, so I'm just so proud of them because they've worked so hard. And Rose is just a fabulous community, and so lucky to be working together and with a great group of kids and families, and so we're just excited, so thank you.
And now we can have partner principal Hartman Hernandez and community come on up.
Yeah, you're fine, right? You got a small. Get everybody. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rhoda, are you gonna get in the picture with us? Come on.
All right. Oh, this is right here.
Her kids go to school there?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's just been a real pleasure. That's all I can say, working with the Kerner community. They are uplifting every day. They bring life, learning, challenges, growth. Our parents, our students, our staff, everybody creates this really wonderful environment. Even during the challenges that come with working with small children, every are uplifted every day. And so it's a gift. And I'm just really happy to be part of the journey that Kerner is going on. And I thank our community for sharing it with me. That's it. Thanks.
So in order to become a California Senior School, you have to have measures of growth on the dashboard. And then there is an extensive application that has to be completed. And then the state looks at that, reviews it, matches it with what triggered your eligibility in the first place, and then to let us know if you're a California Distinguished School. So thank you very much to both communities and staffs and parents and students for the work that you put into creating learning environments where kids can thrive. And as our teacher leader Ken Chu said, they can realize their heart and their passion, which will accelerate them in life. So thank you. Could you hold this for me? And could you hold this? Could you hold this, please? And then if I could have the four of you to stand on the please. And then cabinet and students could stand around us. Stand on So January is California School Boards Month. wanted to take this opportunity to recognize each of you for what you do in our community and in our schools to champion all of our learners. And when I say all of our learners, I mean from the little ones to the old ones, as well as all of those who work with our students and all of our parents. So I really appreciate the time and effort that it takes to be a school board member. Sometimes people don't realize that being a school board member means that you put in really long hours in addition to these Tuesday night meetings, that you take time from work to be at schools, and that you take time to listen to community members. Sometimes when you might want to have a quiet dinner, you don't get to because you have a community member popping in and asking you a question. So I really appreciate the way that you take your calling to heart and that you lead the community and help us in doing the work that we have to do, because when the board acts as a governance team and helps us in executing the vision and all of the strategic goals, then it makes magic happen at the school sites. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
We have one more. If I could ask Nicole Stewart, she is our MUSD Champion of the Month. And while I was looking at what was happening with all of our last meeting, and my eyes gazed on my little tea bag thing, and it's a quote by Anais Nin, and I thought immediately of you. It says, "Life shrinks or expands according to one's courage." And the reason I thought of you is because you really put yourself out there. You stand up for others. Even when you get a lot of heat, you're still there standing up for them. And you've really expanded our concept of what it means to be a caring community. And I really appreciate that.
Perfect. Perfect, thank you. Yeah.
And I'd like to thank Ken Chu for nominating you. And if you'd like to say a few words.
And while Nicole's doing that, Scott's gonna get the video ready.
I do want to thank Ken for nominating me. And I want to thank all of the teachers, the paras, the tutors, the counselors, the psychs, the principals, the assistant principals, all the folks that I work with who work directly with our students. They're the ones who let me know when the student is in need, so I don't do this by myself. I have a full team of Milpetians to help me. And I'm very, very grateful, especially this year, about the help that's been coordinated in the city and through the county. We are recognizing the need in our city, and we're coming together in a heart-centered way. Thank you, Ken, for reminding us to take care of each other. So thank you all. I do this work only with the support of my colleagues.
Thank you, so if we could have everybody sit down.
So the school and services coordinator is basically a social worker, where in our schools, suppose their job is to educate our students. My job, find any barriers to their education and move those barriers by referring those families to services outside of the school district, services
in a city, county, that might remove the barriers, that might be keeping from coming to.
I'm just gonna restart this.
Yeah.
She really doesn't sound like that.
I am going into my 5th year with Memphis Junior High School. So the schooling services coordinator is basically a social worker, where in our schools, the teachers and principals, their job is to educate our students. My job is to find any barriers to their education and to remove those barriers by referring those families to services outside of the school district, services that might be in a city or in our county that might help them remove the barriers that might be keeping them from coming to school or reaching their best academic potential while they're here.
I nominated Nicole because she is a true superhero of this school district. She's given me a lot of perspective of the struggles that kids and families are going through. Things you may not, notice during the class time.
I really love getting to talk to students and their families and kind of calm them about their needs. Often when families come, they're very nervous to say what they need or about challenges they've had in the past. And once I let them know that, their kid isn't gonna get kicked out of school and we have a lot of services and support for them, they just seeing their body relax and their face relax and knowing that I'm taking a tiny bit of stress away, that's the best part, just seeing that.
Nicole is so kind, generous with her time, so patient.
My favorite pastime is both teaching and practicing yoga. It is what keeps me sane in this job, and it's also what keeps my my heart protected in this work. Thank you. The ability to fly and the ability to read people's thoughts.
Make one comment. When Nicole first started, the Pearson Unified School District didn't have a concept of social services or social work and what it meant, because it primarily focused on we're the educators. The kids come to school, we educate, they go home. And she had to fight for her space and her territory. She had to say that she had to help explain to a number of our educational leaders that there's more to education and the opportunities that you guys present that we can do together. And she began to earn their trust. And she began to earn their respect by always being there, by knowing a little bit more about the parents and being able to share that back with our leaders to get a better understanding of who they had in their classrooms or who they had visiting in their offices. So I'm personally grateful for you making your impact on this district, never giving up on what you believe in, always trusting your heart, and always making opportunities for the community. Thank you.
All right, Superintendent's Executive Cabinet's report. Superintendent Jordan.
I would like to start with our CSEA representative, Michelle Kessinger, who is also our president. I don't think it's on.
Good evening, board. Superintendent Jordan. First, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on our CSEA as the chapter president and representative. I appreciate the fact that you're actually giving us time to be on the agenda rather than having to fill that card out 4 or 5 times an evening. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you hear our voice of the classified. I appreciate the fact that we are collaborative in our district. I'd like to invite Suzette Bromagem up as well. As I speak about collaboration, our team and Lori Louie is our secretary. Suzette Bromajam is our vice president. And I am the president. This isn't about me, it's about the team of CSEA. So we work together well as a team. So we work and collaborate as a team. I have to drive them half the time, but eventually they come. But I just want to say I really appreciate the fact that we have been really diligently working with HR, with Assistant Superintendent Jonathan Brunson and HR Director Damon James. I cannot tell you how much we appreciate the collaboration. Said I wasn't gonna cry, but anyways, it's been tough, a tough 4 years. That we have not had that unity as we work across the table. So I wanna just say, Jonathan, I appreciate that. And I appreciate the hard work that Damon has put in this last year that since he started. We have reconvened monthly on the reclassification study. It's been a grueling 3 years experience in doing that. I think we're one of the few districts that actually has taken it upon ourselves as a district to actually observe and listen to the employees, meet with them face to face and listen to what they have to say about the daily tasks that they are doing in our students, with our students in the classrooms. I am so excited to say that we're almost done. February, we should be finished with the paraeducators. There's 5 classifications that we've worked on, and we're finally at the finish line. And I'm excited to bring forth what we've discovered. It's a long process, but it's well worth it. And when you see what we've done with our paraeducators, our behavior intervention therapists, our transitional assistants, our job coaches, our career technicians, our one-on-ones, we've done a tremendous work. And I'm gonna be really super excited when that finishes. And I'm sure Jonathan will too. But moving forward, I want to thank you, Chris, because you're an inspiration to me. You've given me lots of words of wisdom about the future of what Michelle Kessinger, the chapter president, is doing with our classified. And when we talk about leadership, we talk about where we're going. What are we seeing as a future as a district? And I also see that as well as our members, with Suzette being the vice president by my side for the last 9 years. What happens if I'm not here one day? So that charge that you've given me has given me lots of ideas and strength about building leaders. As an area director for CSEA, I have 99 chapters that I oversee, and it's actually given me a vision for all of those members, not just for our chapter. So I wanted to invite you guys to see the awesome things that we're gonna be doing as a leadership training that I have actually scheduled for our members, as well as the 99 other chapters that will be invited. And our district will be hosting a leadership engagement accountability program. It's engaging our leaders within our unions and our members and employees throughout our district, as well as others. I put this training together and I'd love for you guys to come see what it's about. Cheryl has heard about our Area C Institutes, which I've also put together with CSEA, and we'll be having that on April 4th and 5th and 6th. All the board members, assistant superintendents, you're all welcome to come. It's awesome to see our members in action and what they're learning and training. On March 28th, this will be the 9th annual training symposium, 9th. It started off with 50 people, we have over 150 attend. It's a big event, it's a professional development day that I had put together with our board and also in conjunction with Cheryl Jordan and Melpita. Roxanne Fuentes from Berryessa were our guest speakers last year. So I want to ask Chris if you would be our guest speaker this year on March 28th and talk about the collaboration between boards and unions and how we can work together as a team. So we have a lot of things that are happening. And I wanted to give you these dates ahead of time because I know you have busy schedules. And on May 2nd, we have the Golden Bear Awards where we honor our members for their great service and work that they do all year long. So I'd like to invite you to that as well. And that's at CSEA headquarters. And we have about 400 people that attend. So as you can see, our calendars are quite busy, working collaboratively with the Milpitas Chapter 281 board, as well as in conjunction with you guys. I greatly appreciate your support. And I look forward to moving on diligently with these trainings, and I know that you guys support us greatly. I am looking for those in the audience as well as at home. If anybody's interested in bringing their skills and talents. We had a great PD day on Friday, and we had our data analyst who taught the Google Docs. I think her name is Jackie Kai, and she is fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I learned so much. And I would love to have her come and train in Google Docs if she's willing to do that. But we would take, we're looking for leaders and teachers to help us on that professional development day. So if you can help me, Jonathan, recruit some for our pairs and such, that would be great. Thank you very much.
And will you give me the time for the Golden Bear Awards so I can add that to the calendar?
It starts at 11 to 3, I think. Thank you.
The time for March.
I'm sorry?
The time for March 28th.
That starts at 8 to 3 o'clock, it's an all-day training. And the March 7th, the Leadership Engagement Program, that starts at 9 o'clock, from 9 to 3. That's just a brief synopsis of what we've been working on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle and Suzette. So our next one that I would like to bring up is Principal Shangri-La Mia Ramzan of Zanker and her team for the principal's report.
Yay.
Can you hear me?
No. You gotta turn it on.
Gotta hold it.
So the green light comes on.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Good evening, Superintendent Jordan and board members. We are thrilled to be here tonight to have an opportunity to share a bit about how our team has been working very diligently towards strategic goal number 1, which is to build a culture of lead. They're being bashful, which is to build a culture of we that engages staff, parents, community partners to help support the academic success and just success overall for all of our students. So tonight I have with me our PTA president, Mrs. Fritzi Borja, and I have our assistant principal, Mr. Rajab Isjan. And we're gonna begin actually with Mrs. Borja, because our PTA, and not just this year, this is definitely an endeavor that our PTA has been collaborating with us so graciously and in an amazing fashion, supporting our teachers, all of our staff members with growing and developing some of our larger PBIS initiatives.
Right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Fritzi Borja. I serve as the PTA president for our Zanker Elementary community. I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve and to share some of the things that our community of teachers, students, staff, parents, guardians, and supporters have been doing to exemplify, personify, and truly live the culture of we in our small community. As a PTA group, we believe in forming partnerships with other school committees, local Milpitas, and even greater Bay Area groups. It takes a village to raise a child, and we have expanded our village to make sure that we can give our Zanker community a total and immersive experience. One example of this, as Mrs. Mia highlighted, is teaming up with our PBIS team. We reviewed our events and programs, so we always have like this vision for everything that we want to do for our kids. But because we've heard that PBIS has this character trait of the month for every month of the school year, we try to retrofit and realign some of the programs that we have so that it aligns more to the character trait that we're trying to highlight for the month. So for example, we had our family volunteering initiative that we were going to do in November with Thanksgiving and the holidays, but changed it to this coming February for the kindness and friendship focus. We'll try to work with Milpitas Pantry with that. We've also purchased correspondingly themed books for classrooms to borrow and share. We also worked with our student council to execute an anti-bullying spirit week, for example. So we try to take in as many partners as we can. We even have council members from the city come in and visit with us. I know Councilwoman Karina Dominguez has dropped by and just hung out at recess with our kids during the anti-bullying month as well. So we've formed so many partnerships and we've had very successful and effective programs as a result. Community and the culture of we is alive and well at Sanger.
Thank you, Mrs. Borja. Now we're going to move on. Mr. Ischan is going to share a little bit about some of the initiatives, kind of where we've been with PBIS at our site, what we're currently focusing on, and a highlight for our future pipeline for our school.
Thank you. And good evening. I wanted to underscore our efforts to connect with our PTA through our PBIS team, and PBIS is Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports team. We're made up of a variety of teachers on our site, and to leverage the connection between the character traits idea and the alignment with our PTA, our team decided to create a more unified approach to reinforcing the messages of the traits like kindness, friendship, courage, honesty, respect. And we're doing it through our morning announcements. And every morning, when we do a morning announcements, we highlight the character traits that teachers are talking about in their classrooms. We connect them to lessons that are being taught. And it's just a way for us to highlight all of the efforts around these really important ideas. From the character traits, what was spawned was this idea that is happening in parallel, this idea of Zenker ambassadors. And this is the idea that we should be engaging as a school, all of our students, in opportunities to spread the idea of these character traits. So, for example, our Zenker ambassadors are all students who volunteer are engaged in welcoming visitors, welcoming new students, whether students or adults. Zenker ambassadors is an opportunity for students to practice some of these traits. Zenker ambassadors also serve as, so we have an external reward system along with our PBIS approach. And we're using the Zenker ambassadors as a way to flip the narrative on an external reward system. Instead of being teacher focused, where teachers hand out a reward for these character traits being exhibited, we're engaging students to find each other and to reward each other, to talk to each other about these character traits. So in parallel with our PBIS team's character traits initiative, we're really trying to find ways to engage all students in these really important ideas.
Thank you. And I just like, now that we've kind of addressed and spoken a bit about our hearts, our students' hearts, how we're supporting our students more effectively, not just academically, but mentally and emotionally, I would just like to speak now with a little bit of data, numbers. And I think the numbers, we definitely have room for growth, as we all do, but I think the numbers speak for themselves. Looking more closely, we had the chance to look more closely at our not only California dashboard data for chronic absenteeism and also our suspension data. And we're very thrilled to say, even though it's small growth. I view it as incremental growth. Our chronic absenteeism has decreased by 0.7%, and our suspension data has decreased by 0.5%. And really looking more closely at our attendance data, seeing where we're at currently compared to 1 year ago. So January 2019 compared to right now, January 2020. Interestingly enough, our percentages, our data rates for our kindergarten through third grade students are at 95%, which was pretty much exactly where it was at last year. And very similarly for our fourth through sixth grade students, it is at 96%. So our goal is to strive to be at a minimum of 98% straight across the board for all of our students, kindergarten through sixth grade. Obviously, there is work to be done, but we are celebrating in the sense that not only have we decreased in regards to our dashboard data for student engagement, suspensions and chronic absenteeism, but that we've maintained a certain level as far as our daily attendance, and we definitely have more work to do to strive forward. As I said, 98% is the goal, and even if we could go beyond that, that would be lovely. But incremental growth, we definitely believe in that, and I think we can all agree that the work that is being engaged in and focused on, the time and energy that we're all collaboratively working on as staff members, parents, partners, community officials, just everything that we're doing together with our families and our students is reflected in our numbers. So I'm very thrilled to see where we're going to be moving on in the future for spring and of course for fall. Is there anything else, Mr. Isham, that you would like to add?
Shall we share the vignette?
Yes. Go ahead.
We had spoken about highlighting something that maybe isn't shown in numbers necessarily. When it comes to suspension data at our school, and just in my initial dive into our historical suspension data, elementary K-6, our school hasn't had many instances of suspensions, but what we're most excited about is how we go about dealing with conflict, how we go about helping students to learn from those moments when things go wrong. We just wanted to highlight a little bit about what this means or what this looks like. And we're going to use an example. We're going to use a quick story from an incident that just happened 2 weeks ago. We're going to use the story of Adam. This is a fictitious name, but our sixth grader Adam made a mistake, and he made a big mistake. He used a friend's cell phone as a joke to call emergency services, called 911. And this was done in jest. This was done as a way to prank the other student. And the result was 911 called the student back multiple times. Students' parents found out, and there was a lot of concern about whether or not a real emergency was taking place. And so when the dust settled, we saw as a team multiple ways to respond to this. And our shift in terms of our thinking about punishment, in terms of thinking about consequences, is really underscored by this idea that the real trouble was that trust was broken, that relationships were harmed, and that it's our duty as leaders to help students understand that there's a real opportunity to make things right or make things as right as possible. So we engaged Adam in a process in terms of identifying the parties that he impacted, the parties that he hurt. The process included conversations with all stakeholders, and really they revolved around 4 questions. What happened from your perspective? What were you thinking and feeling about, or at that time? How were other people affected? And what could you do to make things right? What will you do to make things right? And so to make a really long story short, Adam, so being taken through this process, it's really important to continually ask the person engaged in this process what they're thinking. By creating a learning opportunity for younger students to learn about the emergency system, by addressing the stakeholders, the other students that were standing in the near proximity. By all those things that we together brainstormed, Adam reported that he was excited to do these things to make things right, and is currently still in the process of making things right. So we just wanted to underscore that although our suspension data is very low, we're most excited about how we're shifting our paradigm around discipline.
I know we're a bit over time, but are there any questions regarding what we have shared and presented tonight? Okay. Thank you very much for this
That's good
opportunity.
work, by the way. That's really good work in terms of how you're looking at addressing issues with students around tough situations like that, as far as the questions, the reflection, and the opportunity for them to come out on the other side with a different mindset. That's hard work. That's good work. Thank you for that.
Thank you. We really try, as Mr. John shared, to view each moment, not from that punitive angle, but really from the restorative perspective, and really thinking about the impact, as Mr. Isjan shared, like every moment, if you think every moment in life, especially every moment that is an unwise choice that a youngster may engage in, is a teachable moment. It just takes a moment to step back, reflect a little bit, as opposed to having a knee-jerk reaction or a more traditional reaction, and really viewing the scenario from different lenses. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to start with Assistant Superintendent Zhang.
Thank you, Superintendent. I have 3 reports tonight. The first, I'll start from our facility department. I would like to touch a little bit on the state matching fund application process. As you know, this is a complicated process. Recently, we updated the information in a Q&A format and posted it on our district website. Scott, could you quickly show the audience how to get to that information? So while Scott is working on that, and hopefully this information will provide, so underneath there, okay. So this information will provide a better understanding of the process to our community. And this is all the latest recent update here. And we have very high expectations and standards for our staff. We will continue to work diligently to provide high quality work with transparency. Second update is from our student nutrition department. Recently, our student nutrition department works with other department district-wide, including learning and development, to update our wellness policy. Wellness policy is a document that will guide the district to provide a healthy and well-being and to promote a student learning environment. And it's important to update this policy so we can bring all parties and to the awareness of a student learning environment. And once the policy is ready, and we'll share that with the board. My last report is from our maintenance operation department. Recently, the County Office of Education invited Santa Clara Valley, the water district, to provide some workshop to school district to introduce the programs they have that can help public school to conserve water. And after that workshop, and we reach out to them, they have a program, it's called Landscape Survey. So they can come to our school site to do a free survey to see how they can help us and to improve our landscape, and then provide some rebate for us. So we're very excited about this program, and we started our conversation with the water district and we'll continue to provide updates to the board. Hopefully we can get some rebate and we can do some good work and to conserve water in our schools. So that ends all my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. An.
I also received a letter from Santa Clara County Office of Education, and I want to thank Wendy, and the team for doing such a great job on reporting the financial statements and for the first interim report. So this letter is the approval of that first interim report, and they congratulate you. They are satisfied, so I just want to thank you. Lynn is here. I want to thank Lynn and Duke and the whole team for
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
doing
It's,
great work.
yeah, it's a team effort.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
And I might add to that, that reminds me about, because of the great work that your team does to help with our finances, that Standard & Poor's and Moody's just recently in the past spring gave us an AA1 rating and an AA rating, which is, as KNN Financial Advisors shared with us, the highest rating that a school district that's based on average daily attendance can get from Standard & Poor's and Moody's. And it's because of these high ratings that we are able to have competitive bond sales at a very low interest rate. So thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Lynn, and everybody who helps to contribute to our strong financial outlook. And another thing that people may not be aware of is that we strive for cost management, and we do it in a way that's collaborative. And we work with our association leaders at the negotiations table, as well as with all of our staff. And as a matter of fact, the last few months, we've been engaging with stakeholder meetings with our staff members to talk about how we can do some cost management and reduce by about $1.5 million, because we want to be a school district that continues to have positive certification without having to do deep cuts as some of our neighboring districts have done. So thank you.
Why don't you finish the reports from the
Norma, for our Assistant Super Learning and Development.
Thank you, Superintendent Jordan. My report, I have a total of 4 reports, just like Wendy. And I am very happy to inform that our English language strict classification numbers are coming in, and they are looking very good. There is an increase of numbers who qualified for reclassification, and we will honoring them on May 13th at our multicultural celebrations and reclassification ceremony. So I want to thank all of our teachers and our educators, leaders at the sites for supporting our English language learners. On the same token, I wanted to inform the board that we are entering the window of assessing, administering the LPAC. And the LPAC stands for English Language Proficiency Assessment for California. And the LPAC window of assessment is large. It will start February 4th and will end in May 1. But this is a summative assessment. Every year we conduct these assessments for our English language learners. And the assessment is lengthy, it's 4 domains, and it's one-on-one. So I want to thank the teachers for, again, also for supporting our testers who come in and pull the students so that they can conduct the one-on-one assessment. We have a total of 2,792 students that we need to assess so that we can monitor the progress in acquiring the second language. The other thing that I wanted to report is last year, we wanted to do a better job in projecting numbers of students that we're going to be enrolling. And so we usually in the past, we have done open enrollment on March 1st. And so we venture out, neighboring districts have done enrollment sooner, as in January, some even in December. And so we put together a team to say, what would happen if we started enrollment sooner? And so today was the first day of enrollment, January 28th. We sent out a survey to the staffs to see how it went, so that we can gather some data. It was reported by Senate that they had a total of 109 students who were there early. By 12 o'clock, they had already enrolled 109 students. So we will be hearing from other sites to see how it went for the rest of them, and assessing and evaluating if we would have a more solid number for projections for next year. So the other one that I need to report is there's a school accountability report card, and it stands for SARC. The staffs at the sites have been working very, very hard in creating, looking at those plans so that they can be published. They're supposed to be published on February 1st. They're going to be made available for the public on their website and on the school's website. This SARC is the accountability. Some of that data is also, it comes from dashboard, some of that data facilities, and it is used also for the LCAP. So that will be published on February 1st. That's all.
And Assistant Superintendent of HR. Mr. Brunson.
Good evening, everybody. I'll soon be working with our sites on staffing for next year based on our student enrollment, and we're calendaring visits to go recruit teachers at the area universities. I so enjoyed Mr. Jack Weinstein's history of Milpitas. I learned something which is fascinating about our history here, and his story of resiliency. Yours too, Cheryl. And Chris, thank you for reminding us that because you work here at Milpitas, you are part of the fabric of this community. Let's see, I'm thankful for Director Damon James and all of his work with our other directors and coordinators. I think to have probably one of the best PD days for our classified. And Michelle, thank you for your help too. Really appreciate it, and your team. And lastly, I attended the services for Denny Weisberg, and I had the fortunate pleasure of meeting him several times this last year that I've been here. And what a legacy and what a tribute that day was to him, and seeing all the Marines and family, and then last night sitting in a hall named after him. It was really cool. So we'll miss him. I've never seen him here at our board meetings as well. That will conclude my report.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. I do have one comment request form from the public. Lincoln on item 16.
Hi, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to speak on 16 because I think Scott just told me that that item does not accept public comment. But since I'm up here, I will go ahead with it. I just wanted to thank Wendy and Cheryl as well as the staff for getting back at the questions that has arisen regarding the state matching funds. I really appreciate that transparency. But since we're talking about transparency here, I think a lot of confusion started off with mixed messaging that was put out. Back on August the 27th last year, the board highlight statement that went out to the public was the one that inaccurately quoted that our school district has not applied for any state matching funds in 20 years. So this came direct from the communications that was approved by the board. And because of that, it has set off a lot of questions. And I think this is good that we're having transparency and explanation, but at the same time, I think it's important to also make sure that communications are accurate when it goes out. So that's my public comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 17, the board group agreements. It is on the screen for community to follow. And item 18, reports. Superintendent Jordan.
I would like to report that we have had no complaints for underneath the Williams Act for adequate school environment, supplies, and teacher credentialing.
Great, thank you. Wendy, on staff reports?
Yes, on January 10th, Governor Newsom released the state's 2021 state budget proposal. We listed all the major highlights from the state budget proposal here in this general report. And I would like to have our Director of Business Services, Lynn Lee, to go over some of the financial impacts that will affect the district. So I'll have Lynn to go over the slides then.
While we're waiting, on January 10th, the governor releases proposal for 2021 budget, state budget. Governor Newsom commit to help out education by commit $1.2 billion increase for LCFF, which translates to 2.29 cost of living adjustment. This is actually lower than the 3.0% at 1920 budget proposal. So as you can see, the difference is approximately, it's on one slide.
Oh, there's one.
So the difference is approximately $59 per ADA. So therefore, without current ADA, we will receive $678,000 less. On special education, the governor proposed to bring up the minimum funding for our ADA to $557 per ADA, which with our ADA, we would increase $202,000. He also give us one-time money for our preschooler with disability. At this time, the approximation is $4,570 per ADA, which equate to around $420,000. Merit block grant, we get the standard 2.29% COLA, which translates to about $9,000 increase. Child care and preschool rate. Right now, it's 2.29%, but we do not know how much that will impact our district. For student nutrition, he commits $60 million ongoing to help our school student nutrition program. He also commit one-time $10 million to train our school employee in preparing food and promoting healthy, nutritious meals for our students. And that is the highlight of the budget. Do you have any question?
As the link shared here, so those are the budget impact that we're going to incorporate in our second interim budget update that we will share with the board in March. In the meantime, and I asked Scott still to put these items here, and we appreciate the governor set aside or increase the funding to education. However, you can see the direct impact to us right now is still not sufficient enough. And currently for Milpitas Unified School District, we're still in a better financial position compared to our neighboring school district. However, you can see that the new funding from the state is not sufficient to cover for the cost increase that we're facing as a school district. And as comparing to our neighboring district, that will have some of the district has already did some budget cut. And for us, in order for us to stay financially sound and prudent, and we're still planning to discipline our spending and to have some budget reductions. And we're working on that. And as Cheryl shared in the earlier, And we like to be proactive. And anticipating, and you probably heard news that the US has already exceeded the longest expansion in the history. There will be a recession out there, and we just don't know when it will come. So it's always prudent for the district that we prepare ourselves for the future downturn. And for us to discipline our spending and reduce the deficit gap, and it's always a good way and the right way to keep us financially on track as a district. And we'll provide a more detailed budget update in March, so you will have a better information about our district out year's projection.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn.
I have a brief comment. Again, thank you, Wendy and Lynn, for that. It's really important that we do as much as we can to prepare for problems looming on the horizon. So now is the time, and when those challenges hit, it's the real test of how well we prepared in the lead up. So please keep preparing.
All right, moving on to C. Superintendent.
This is a discussion item. It's not for action tonight. I brought it forward for the board to discuss because it is recommended by the California School Boards Association that school boards adopt this resolution that they've prepared in support of the Public Preschool K-12 and College Health and Safety Bond Act of 2020, Assembly Bill 48, not to be confused with another proposition from 2018 that was called the, also referenced Prop 13 and doing something called split taxing. This is different. This is about a state bond, and it is in reference to providing school districts with the opportunity to do matching funds, but not just on new buildings and overcrowding, but also for health and safety. And so I wanted to bring forward to the board the proponents and opponents so that you could discuss amongst yourself if this is something that you would like to do or not. And then if it is a resolution that you would like to pass, then at the next board meeting, I will bring it forward for action. And one thing that I would like to point out about this is that Governor Jerry Brown, he was opposed to the state bond matching funds, and he didn't provide the funding for them as Governor Newsom has in Prop 51, because he felt that at the structure of the matching bond application was not fair, because it was based on who could get there first, and because state matching fund applications for bond monies require that you have a need because you're growing beyond capacity, and B, you have some sort of project that you've already invested money into that the state can match, meaning that you have to have a bond. It tends to be those districts that are larger, like Los Angeles Unified, that were in line first. So in 2016, when bond monies became available, they were quickly accounted for, and the larger school districts were the ones that were awarded those matching funds. So this is an effort to equalize it in a sense.
Thank you. So you will bring this back to the next board meeting for approval?
If the board, after you discuss, if that's something that you want to do, so I'd like to open it up for the board to discuss amongst yourselves and decide what you want to do.
Quick question. about this sheet of paper, can I ask again who prepared it and are there any like, footnotes or sources?
Sure. So we took this directly from calmatters.org. Mhm. Bring up the Cal Matters. Bring up the Cal Matters or the resolution?
The Cal Matters.
Yes, up the calmatters.org. And Cal Matters is a nonpartisan organization that presents both sides of propositions and laws. Yeah. So what you have in front of you on hard copy is what you see up on the screen.
Are you able to read the author and the date? I can't quite see it.
It's up there. There you go.
Ricardo Cano, published January 16, 2020.
Thank you.
Okay, open this up for discussion. Michelle? Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, President Hong. I wanted to let you know that CSEA's governmental relations has done a thorough examination of that proposition. We have endorsed that. The board of directors and CSEA has endorsed this. There's a lot of language out there and a lot of discrepancies about this because a lot of people are afraid that Prop 13 is going to go away. What it does, it's a new Prop 13. It doesn't affect the residents or small businesses, which is important that we have to think about for our community. So I wanted to bring that up with you, and if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to talk to you about that and about the information that we have as well with CSEA. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Does anyone have questions for Michelle?
Yeah, if you have a document with a summary of your findings from that review, I would love to take a look at it and see what you folks produced.
Yes, and we are collecting signatures so it can go on the ballot. It's not on the ballot yet. We have to collect signatures. So that's the important piece. But yes, I will get that to you.
When is it proposed to go on the ballot?
November.
November, and how many signatures do you need?
Many. I don't know exactly the number. NCTA is also endorsed. So most of the labor unions have endorsed this.
Coach Timothy, do you have any questions? Tim?
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your findings on that. Based on my understanding, what you have shared and the minimal research that I've done to this point, it does not have an effect on small businesses or homeowners, and that's some of the language that's out there. But we still need to continue to do our diligence on that, and it's good to know that our labor unions understand the value of what this means to the community as relative to that. So I would say that on my end, I'd like to do a little bit more research. However, I can communicate directly with the superintendent on this issue that if my findings still stand correct or based on what I heard, I would be willing to approve this resolution.
Same with me. We'll bring this back and we can email superintendent without questions. So, alright.
Yep.
So, thank you, Michelle.
And yes, as for where I stand, I would like to look into more details, but on the whole, it sounds good. I know there's been a lot of issues across the state where education funds end up kind of being pulled away for other things like housing, but then where does that leave our schools? So again, I think we do need to look at all possible ways to raise more money for our education system.
Thank you, Michael. All right, moving on to item 19, action items. A, approve resolution 2020.23 recognizing and honoring January 30th as Fred Karamazov Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution. Superintendent Julie.
So I asked Scott to connect with staff members of Japanese descent, and we have Dr. Kim Schmidt, who teaches science at Cal Hills. And together they looked at this resolution and decided it was something that they wanted to bring forward as it is. And Kimmy is going to read it for us.
This one?
Korematsu. And I should have worn my kimono since all of you dressed up. Recognizing and honoring January 30th as Fred Korematsu Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution. Whereas National Civil Rights hero Fred Korematsu was born in Oakland, California on January 30th, 1919 to Japanese immigrant parents. During World War II in 1942, and at 23 years old, he was arrested and convicted after refusing to go to the government's incarceration camps for Japanese Americans. And whereas he appealed his case all the way to the Supreme Court, who ruled against him, arguing that incarceration was justified due to military necessity. 4 decades later, Judge Marilyn Hall Patel of the United States District Court overturned Korematsu's wrongful conviction for the Northern District of California. In her decision, Judge Patel acknowledged that a grave injustice was done to American citizens and resident aliens of Japanese ancestry, who, without individual review or any probative evidence against them, were excluded, removed, and detained by the United States during World War II. And whereas Korematsu remained a tireless advocate for every American's right to liberty, due process, and equality without regard to race, ethnicity, or national origin. In 1998, Korematsu received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, from President Bill Clinton. And whereas former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger signed the Fred Korematsu Day Bill AB 1775 into law on September 23, 2010. The Fred Korematsu Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution is the first day in the U.S. history named after an Asian American. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Milpitas Unified School District hereby proclaims January 30th, 2020 as Fred Korematsu Day of Civil Liberties and the Constitution, and encourages all educators to commemorate this day of remembrance with appropriate ceremonies, activities, and programs.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kimmy, for working on that with Scott, and also for being here tonight to read it.
So it's an action item. Do I have the motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make the motion.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You too, Timothy. Thank you. Right, motion passed. Thank you, Kim, for reading that. Right. 19B, approve the Black Construction Phase 2.
Yes, I will introduce this, Travis, quickly to share with the board our process and, also this agreement with the block construction for our phase 2 Meadows New Elementary School. And the staff actually, we're planning for our, summer projects now, and we're not going to stop and, for any minute for our bond program to move forward. So tonight I have Travis, and also we have Tunde from Block here, and we'll go over this contract. This is we call this is increment 1 for the phase 2 Meadows. And Travis, I'll have you to go over the detail of the contract, and also maybe you can touch a little bit the process.
Sure. Good evening, President Han, members of the board, and executive cabinet. I'm pleased to bring before you for your consideration and approval is increment 1 GMP plus steel estimate pricing for the phase 2 build out of Maple Meadows Elementary School. The reason that we're in 2 increments is that DSA has a long lead time to approve plans, particularly plans of this level of complexity. Also, there is a code change this year, so a lot of people were putting plans in before the start of the new year so that those plans could be compliant with the old code and they wouldn't have to make major modifications. So starting with a target date of August 8th, 2021 for completion of the build out of this school, and then working our way backwards through the process, we decided it was in the district's best interest to split the phase 2 build out into 2 increments. The first increment being the site work, where we go in and do all the preparations for the dirt. We do the underground utilities, we prepare the building pads for the concrete, steel, and the actual structures. Those plans are easier for DSA to approve. And so that would allow us to get started on that portion of work, which in sequence comes first anyway. So we did that, we submitted that earlier on, and then later we submitted the plans for the 3 classroom buildings and the multi-purpose. The reason that we've added the steel pricing on here is because steel is a long lead item. That is to say, oftentimes it comes from out of state, or it's a long time to fabricate this steel. So a long lead item we would need to order immediately so that could begin fabrication. Sometimes it's a 4 to 6 month lead time for steel. So what you see in this increment 1 pricing is an estimate for actual GMP for increment 1. And then there's a not to exceed estimate added onto there of $4,381,000 and some change for the steel estimate. Steel numbers came back to Block Construction today. They're actually under that. So this not to exceed amount is a safe way to go if we were to approve this tonight. And what we've also brought to you is an estimate of what increment 2 of phase 2 would be. That is to say the buildings. So you're in the $27 million range. We anticipate that number to be slightly lower. You're not approving the $27 million tonight, but we wanted to give you context so you didn't feel, oh, we're approving $8 million tonight, but how much is the rest going to be with no knowledge of what that overall cost may be. As you know, Block is one of our preferred lease-back contractors. They've been in pre-construction services with us. We have weekly meetings with the architect, entire design team, any other specialty consultants we need to bring in. And what that allows us to do is control budget along the way. So as we're designing this project, if we say, oh, if we do this element differently than this element, then our cost is going to go up $1.5 million. So we need to revisit those things before we get to this point and while we're in the design phase. So what we have tonight and what we're asking for is approval of the guaranteed maximum price plus the steel estimate so that they can order the long lead item of steel. Tunde Anadeli is here to answer any questions you may have specific to the process of obtaining their bids or any other thing you may want to ask them. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Travis. We'll start with that, and do we have any questions for Travis? Michael? No? Kelly?
Just curious, you said, the bidding process, how, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. With the lease back, it's an open book policy. So when we did a lease back RFP, we had several general contractors present to us, okay, if we were the general contractor for this, our markup on self-performed work would be X%, our markup on subcontractors would be X%, our markup on change order work would be X%, our overhead and profit is. So it's a means of determining costs. So that was established at the time that we selected the 4 lease-back contractors for us. Moving forward into bid, how they do that is just like any general contractor. They send out advertisements, they solicit people they know. They try to get a minimum of 3 bids for each trade when possible. I think the steel was a little bit of a challenge. They got 2 bids. The rationale behind that is that it was too small of a job for the great big companies and it was too big of a job for some of the smaller outfits. And so they really have, and that's the benefit to Block, they have this network of, I believe, some 250 subcontractors they can reach out to. So they try to get a minimum of 3 bids. Those bids come in and then they vet those bids out, tally them up. It's open book process. And they could say, this is how we came to our pricing. So they don't have the opportunity to just come and say, oh yeah, it's 30 million and not really justify how they came to that. And that's the upside to the transparency of the lease-back process. You can look at those books.
Also, I would like to share that back in November 2019, before Block went out to bid the phase 1, I mean the increment 1 side work, and we had a estimate. And this proposal, the total of 8.6 million, comes much lower than the November estimate. Actually, I'd like to thank June Day and his team to work diligently to work with their subcontractors and to give us a better price.
And then from the 2 bids, were they very close or?
On the steel?
Yeah.
2 days.
Yeah.
Good evening. So yeah, we actually had 3 bids, which was even better. And so what we did is we were able to cover the spread. So we have 3 bids from separate contractors in addition to our own estimate. So equivalently, we're looking at a spread of 4 numbers. And then from there, we brought in the 2 competitive bids to have a post-bid interview to really vet out there to make sure they can meet the schedule, in addition to it just being as opposed to a pure dollar value. One thing we've known in this industry is that some contractors will come in low to win the job, but then they can't perform, which doesn't do us any good. So part of our vetting process and really during buyout is to ensure not only that the price is accurate and reflects everything that's included, but that they can also meet our schedule. And for Matos, it's a very aggressive schedule because it's 4 buildings and it's important that we have it open by August 8th. So structural steel is a critical path. So that's why we're spending a little bit more effort to really make sure that we're driving this in. So our goal is to have that finalized by the end of this week. And we had post bids today and we'll continue to scrub the rest of the week. But to answer your question, yes, the numbers were close. They were within $300,000 to $400,000 of each other. And that was within $200,000 of our estimate. So they were all in a pretty good cluster. And then we had one relatively outlier. And I think that was a result of them already being impacted. They were just too busy, but they still sort of sent a flyer bidding, but we can tell based off their number that they weren't competitive.
And then the company that you chose, what was, I guess, what was the reason you chose them?
So we still haven't, so we just had our original post bid today. We still haven't finalized our decision. We're giving the contractors we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. So we met with the 2 apparent lows and now we're giving them the opportunity to make sure that their numbers are complete and that they have the complete scope. But basically how that our ultimate decision is comprised of best value. So there's actually a criteria that we sent out to all the bidders. And it includes price, their familiarity with the district, their safety record, their project financials, and the duration of school projects they've done within the last 10 years. And also overall, can they meet their schedule? So there's a grading, there's a point assignment for each of those between 0 and 50. And then between myself and the other 2 members of my team, we independently provide our scores and then we take an average of those. And that's how we determine who's ultimately selected. So it's rather extensive, but it at least allows us to make sure that we've done our due diligence. So if anybody wants to see how we come to those numbers, we're confident that whoever we pick will be able to get the job done.
Great, wonderful, thank you so much.
And also, just to be clear, so once the board approved the contract for the increment one plus the steel structure estimate, 8.6 million, even though Block has not decided the subcontractor yet, this price is not going to change. So we approve this contract and then that's it. Okay.
And then.
We have the community member with a question, Min Yo.
My name is Ben No, I'm President Milpitas, and good evening, board members and executive cabinet. Actually, Wendy, you preemptively answered my question in the sense of, does this preemptively make the decision for them to approve the contract? Just because of the fact that you're putting an estimated number. So as a board member, I would encourage you to kind of ask those type of questions, so just from a standpoint to understand what your board action is leading to from that perspective. Now, you mentioned approving this contract, but just from a clarification standpoint, they just stated that they didn't pick a contract yet. So what you're doing is approving the proposal.
No, we're approving this contract, and the contract for this contract is $8,626,457 for increment one plus steel structure. Because in this proposal, if you look at in their proposal, they build in the contingency. And then normally it works, if they fully use the contingency as their wiggle room, then fine, it's still within our total target. And if there are any savings from the contingency, the district will get the money back.
Gotcha.
So that's how it works.
They talk about delivering on the long-term steel order. What happens if they fulfill the order early? Are they delivering it and we're housing it here in the city, or are they holding it at the warehouse before they're delivering? Sorry, just very general.
No worries.
So yeah, Block is a local company, and they have a big construction yard there where they fabricate. They do these folia buildings that are pre-approved buildings, so they have a large yard that can store the materials on site. Sometimes you can time the shipping to show up when you need it to show up. One thing I would point out is when you see the structural steel item 10, and this is NTE estimate, that's a not to exceed number. And so when we ask for approval of something like this, if we didn't have the opportunity to fully vet it out, we can say not to exceed numbers. So that is to say, if Tunde and his team come back and they say the steel wasn't $4,381,000, it was $4,100,000, then that'll reflect the actual price we pay. The reason we put an NTE number is that allows us to move forward with the steel, knowing that we're on this tight timeline, allows us to move forward, go ahead and order those materials and stay on track for that August 8th, 2021 delivery date where we promised the school. And then for increment two, we're looking at the first March meeting to bring back that pricing for your approval.
Any other question for us? Thank you.
Let me also, before you approve it, let me quickly, just for the record, to walk you through the document we have here attached, because we have 3 attachments here for you to look at it. The first attachment is the one that Scott put out on the screen. This is the price and the detail of the 8.6 million and plus the estimate for the increment 2, just for your information. And the second attachment is a document of over 200 pages. That was the leaseback contract that back then the board approved in May. And it was drafted by our attorney. And so the third document, that is amendment to our existing lease. So that's basically how the document is structured here. The last one is a short couple pages, just amendment to our existing lease. to reflect the information we presented. In the paper. Okay. Yeah, okay. So we're asking the board to approve this amendment to our existing contract tonight.
So just to be clear, Wendy, you are recommending that we approve this?
Yes.
Do you want to discuss further on this item, Michael? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve?
Is there a second?
Second. I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Item 20, consent items. Consent items are considered routine and will be acted upon the board in one motion. There is no discussion of these items prior to the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request to that specific items be tabled or removed for discussion or correction. Myself, I would like to pull A, purchase order. Any other items for you guys? Michael? Nothing to pull? Okay. Kelly?
None.
Yes? No. Sorry. Is there a motion to approve item 20, except for A? What's up, guys?
Motion to approve, consent items except for A.
So second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, none. Carry. Sorry, man.
All right.
You are just 2 seconds late. All right, I do want to pull PO number 1503. Leslie? There. Family daycare at Cow Hill. What is it?
Okay, so this is the money we, excuse me, we received from state to support a Cal Hill student, the young teen mom who has a baby, and then the state will provide us funding to release the daycare for the students.
Got it.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Just to clarify. Do I have a motion to approve 20A, purchase order?
Motion to approve 20A, purchase order.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Board communications. I'll go with Timothy.
So a few hours ago, I attended the Cal Hills school site meeting, and I wanted to highlight a few of the items that were discussed. A parent member reported that we are planning to develop a parent-teacher-student association, or PTSA for short, and that she and our principal are coordinating ideas with developing the PTSA. The only challenge will be working with the small size of the school, general commitment, and getting enough officers to participate. Another highlight is that College and Career Day is on April 9th. It is a joint collaboration between Calaveras Hills and Adult Ed. There will be several occupations represented, such as engineering, real estate, law enforcement, medical professionals, and other construction trades will be represented. In the afternoon portion, there will be colleges that will have tables in the quad area. It's like a college fair. Students will have the choice to travel between tables to talk with other college representatives to gain information on which colleges they can go to, cost, time, location. And this week started a SJCC college class on the Calaveras Hills campus called Guidance 130, Success and Skills for College and Life. Cal Hills currently has 28 students enrolled in its class. In addition, the Fresh Lifelines for Youth, or FLY program, is starting on the campus February 5th. Just to mention another highlight, Calaveras Hills High School had a very successful community dinner last night. Approximately 150 were in attendance. There was pasta, salads, and bread, and other potluck desserts.
Thank you, Timothy.
Timothy, would you mind saying the date again of that career fair?
College and Career, April 9th.
Thank you.
All right, so scheduling season is back in MHS, and we are having our scheduling meetings with our counselors this week. And for that, we had an AP fair today where students could go to a certain classroom and they get to like ask all the AP teachers questions about any of the AP classes that they have and just find out more information about it, maybe gather up some interest for AP classes. And we have 8th grade transition day tomorrow, which is basically where students from both middle schools, Russell and Rancho, come over to MHS, and they just get a tour of the whole school, a couple of presentations, and I'll be presenting on behalf of our leadership program to get students interested to join us. And next week is our multicultural week, and we may or may not have a spirit week for that. We still have to decide because we're discussing on that, but we will have a multicultural day for sure on Friday, and that Friday is the same day as the multicultural rally, which is where students from different cultures get to perform anything that they would like. Like most people are going to be performing dances, and we also have a multicultural fashion show. So yeah, that's happening. And then the last thing is I was able to attend the community conversation for our vaping project on Thursday. And we did only have 10 people for attendance, but it was only the start. And it was nice because we got to get participation from every single person in that room. And we got a lot of good insight from both students and parents. And yeah, it was just good overall. That's it.
Thank you.
Wait, let me connect with you later to find out when a good time would be for you to do a report to the board with Timothy and the rest of the group.
Yeah, for sure.
Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Lunar New Year. Since the last board meeting, I've gone to the Metro Ed board meeting. Then I went to a leadership retreat, listening to Asian American leaders like Joe Wong and Andrew Yang, who is laying out a national vision. Then I went to a forum at Stanford University on the sustainable development of towns. Went to the city of Milpitas Lunar New Year celebration. Really loud fireworks and dance. Then we had the MUSD Cultural Sustainability Day. Joined various breakout sessions and we did some group exercises. Watched some videos. And I shared some of my own stories about the sort of bias and prejudices I faced in the journey through leadership, and heard stories from other team members about the prejudices they've had to overcome. We did the LCAP study session here in this room. Earlier that day, there was a full day of strategic planning meeting at Metro Ed. So we're discussing what we're gonna do because of all the cuts that are going on, and that's presenting some challenges. There was a Lunar New Year celebration at the Taipei Culture Center in Milpitas. We remembered Denny Weisgerber at his celebration of life. And finally last night, we went to the On the Table event at the community center. That's my report.
Thank you. Kelly?
Hello, and these are the events that I attended. Burnett School Site Council meeting, the CVAC meeting, Lunar New Year celebration at City Hall, the LCAP study session. I attended the supervisor candidate forum, Burnett PTA Association meeting, family bingo night. I was invited to the Spangler Bowling fundraiser at Bolero. Great job, Spangler. I attended the MUSD All-Team Cultural Sustainability Training. Attended Denny Weisgerber Celebration of Life. And last night we were at Milpitas Table Talk at the Community Center.
Thank you. Vice President Norwood?
Bay Area versus the Valley All-Star Game, Team USA versus Canada event for the MHS football team, city school district collaboration event, Milpitas High School Shark Tank event, avid presentation at Thomas Russell Middle School, Women's March in downtown San Jose, Santa Clara County Office of Education, Love for Literacy's Golden Bell Award, Cultural Sensitivity or Cultural Sustainability Awareness and Prep Day, Spangler ODS Award Ceremony, Stanford, Gandhi King, Membership Research, MHS 8th grade Parent Information Session, LCAP Information Session, Santa Clara County Office of Education State of Education Meeting, Stanford University Reading Tutoring Program Overview, MSUD Culture and Week Professional Development Day, Jenny Weisgerber Celebration of Life, Milpitas Unified School District, and City of Milpitas on the Table Community Conversation.
Thank you, Vice President Norwood. For myself, I attended the recognition for Golden Bell Awards, City and School Collaboration, Public Safety New Year Celebration at the Community Center, LCAP Study Session, discussion on future pathways for learners in high school and beyond with Superintendent Vice President Norwood and Principal Rojas. Last night on the table, conversation part 2, and at Jenny Weisgerber Celebration of Life. So we're moving on to dates for future board. February 11th, 2020, study session at 4:30. Closed session at 6, and open session at 7 here in this boardroom. March 10, study session at 5, closed session at 6, and open session at 7 here in this boardroom. March 24th, study session at 5, closed session 6, 7 session at 7, and also in this boardroom. Announcements.
Saturday, February 1st is a big day in Milpitas Unified. We start the day at Sunny Hills neighborhood for the Funkeeper Awards and also the beginning of African American History Month. And then at 11, for anybody who would like to join us, we will be meeting at Russell Middle School for a parade celebrating our football champions. And the parade will end at the Milpitas High School field. And so we're really looking forward to having a great turnout. It'll be an opportunity for our students, especially our younger students, to participate in a parade, which is probably something that many of them will not ever experience otherwise.
Okay, and, for me, well, this is to share with everybody. We heard of the news about the sudden passing of the great Kobe Bryant and the spread of the coronavirus that kills so many and millions in one,
How was sick? That was sick. The last death, last toll on the death count this afternoon was 106, I believe.
106. Okay.
That was this afternoon.
Alright, so I request a minute of silence and prayers for Kobe Bryant, Daniel Weisgerber, and the victims of the coronaviruses and their families. So a minute of silence, please. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to? Timothy, Coach, anything to that? Anything on the right? No? Left? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We can stay here longer. All right, meeting adjourned.